Hello, hello, hello. I'm Juicy Lou here, and we are having our queer thoughts on Chopsticks Alley. Just letting you know that back in 2018, I started a monthly drag show in San Francisco to showcase the queer and trans people of color in a predominantly cis white male space in the Castro. That was my show, Juicy Thoughts. Well, that transformed because of COVID and also new mediums into a podcast in 2020 to learn more about LGBTQ public figures in the Bay Area. And now, adding to my media mogul empire as I become the next Gaysian Oprah, we have queer thoughts on Chopsticks Alley. And I invited my good Judy, Virginia, please, to be my permanent co-host.
And I was just reacting to what you said, Juicy. We're all transformed by COVID, darling.
I know, honey. I
Look at
know.
how I look now.
You look amazing, by the way. We take over Chopsticks Alley every second Thursday of the month at 7 p.m. And yeah, Virginia.
Yes, welcome everybody. This is our second episode, if I'm correct, right?
Episode 2.
Episode 2. And we have a very special guest tonight, Michelle Meow.
Yes, but before we get to that, just letting you know a little bit more about Chopsticks Alley. Chopsticks Alley Art promotes Southeast Asian cultural heritage. We provide support to artists through art exhibits, classes, performances, and events. We celebrate the cultural diversity of Southeast Asian art to foster greater understanding and connect communities. By the way, between September through October 2020, so just a couple months ago, Chopsticks Alley Art delivered 500 art kits to the local Bay Area communities, including fire evacuees, low-income families, and elementary schools. To access our virtual art class, go to www.chopsticksalleyart.com/videos. And our friends from the Billy DeFrank Center, LGBT Center down in San Jose have discussion groups. And we wanted to make shout out to those folks and just let you know those discussion groups are now online. Check it out at www.defrank.org.
And also Juicy Berlin and Beyond Film Festival, which is happening on November 19th to 21. It's a film festival based in SF, San Francisco, featuring new cinema from Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. Our Cambodian American friend Sapone Sorn is the festival director. Check out the films available to watch at berlinbeyond.com starting in November 19 to November 21, 2020.
Yes, we love the film festival. And shout out to our behind the scenes folks, our streamer and producer, Yancy Trinidad. And so
Yes.
Yancy, hit that beautiful intro footage if you have it.
And here she is doing a #1, chewing up the chops. She's big and getting bigger, and she goes by the name of Juicy.
Everybody wants a piece of the action. Everybody's talking about Juicy. Her favorite body parts will soon be yours for a fraction. Her insides lying overhead will be a distraction. So everybody knows about, everybody's talking about Juicy.
All right. Well, this is the new Queer Thoughts on Chopsticks Alley with Virginia Please and me, Juicy Lou, episode 2.
Episode 2. We haven't gotten a chance to make a new intro video yet, Juicy, but we are going to make one, right?
We are. I mean, I love that intro video of my Juicy Thoughts. It's my friend Chad Benjamin Potter helped out, but we need to get together, Virginia.
Yes,
maybe sometime, maybe Thanksgiving or something, or holidays or something, and we can create some little movie magic together for intro video together.
Definitely. We'll make it sexy, darling.
Sexy, yeah, but we are broadcasting live. So sexy right now. We are broadcasting live on Facebook on multiple channels, especially the GAPA channel. Shout out to GAPA, and on Twitch.tv/Chopsticks Alley. Special shout out to our friends again at the Billy DeFrank LGBT Center down in San Jose. I'm so thankful to be here with you, and Virginia virtually. We're here together. I'm in my apartment in Twin Peaks. It's very yellow.
It feels really long though. The last time we did it, it feels like a year already. I don't know how do you feel about it. I mean, we only show like once a month, but it feels like a year already. So many things have happened already.
I know, like the last month, like October, can I say that, like, oh my goodness, like I had like 3 jobs. I was
Yeah.
working on a campaign. I
Oh
was
my
volunteering
God.
with other campaigns and stuff like that. It's just
We have a new president.
and we have a new
Oh
president. And the vice president elect too. Oh my
exactly,
gosh.
Kamala Harris.
I
Oh my
love it.
God,
I
what
love
else
it.
could you ask for? I feel that there's like a change in. I can feel it even in you, Juicy. There's like a change of feeling from I recall in our first few episodes. It's like we were so emotional. We were crying on on
Yes.
live,
Yes.
but now it's like it feels so much. The joy is palpable.
The joy is palpable. That is true, Virginia. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I heard the news, I was actually woken up by the news on Saturday
Yeah.
morning with like pots and pans and screaming. And actually, I heard a yes. That's
Yes!
my neighbors was like yes, and I was like 8:30 in the morning. What's going? Oh, it must be. They finally called it. They finally called it.
They
Boy,
sure did.
Breaking out into the streets.
Girl, I was at the Castro, girl. I was.
Oh yes, me too, honey. Me too, sis. Oh my god, I was just
God.
like, I was here. I'm here with my sign. I'm like dancing
Yeah.
along, and just
It
everybody
was
just seems
so
happy.
joyous. It was comparable to 2015 when the Supreme Court, approved gay marriage for all of us, and it was the same type of feeling that I felt.
for
And I was in the
me-
Castro too.
For me, it was like the World Series,
Mm-hmm.
Pride, the new Independence Day, New Year's, Lunar New Year, Christmas, like all the holidays all in one, and that's why I needed to take a nap. Because I was tired, girl. I was so tired. But yeah, we do have our show theme for tonight is the marvelous Ms. Michelle Meow. And I also, she's one of my favorite, actually my only favorite queer API broadcaster, because I don't know any others out there. But yeah, we just want to talk tonight about like joy and maybe like profiles, because she does a lot of interviews. And so we're both interviews now.
Yes.
We're interviewers now.
I
Virginia.
know. Oh my
So we gotta
God.
learn. We got to learn from the best. Okay.
Learn from the best. I've worked with Michelle, as you know, in so many different capacities, and I know Michelle inside and out, personally and as well as professionally. And I'm very, very lucky to be, to consider my friend Michelle as one of my closest friends and one of my idols that I look up to. And I support everything that she does. All she needs to do, and all she does is actually just call on me, and whatever it is, I'm there to support
When
her.
you need a friend, you just call out my name. Yes, I love it. But before we get into all the politics stuff, I'm checking in with you, Virginia. How are you? Good. You're good. You look great.
Oh, thank you. I thought I was not gonna make it. I'm not gonna show the lower part because honey, I'm wearing my pajamas. I thought I wasn't gonna make it today, but I did.
You did. You made
Queens
it.
like us, we multitask. We do so many things, and we try to make it work. And
You look fierce.
work.
You look fierce. I love it.
Yeah. How about you, Juicy? How are you?
I'm good. I'm wearing nails. I keep doing this moment because
Yes,
it's like
I just
yeah.
lost too. So
And also, I have
God.
a different kind of beat today, a different kind of paint,
I
because I'm
can
learning
totally
from
see
my
that.
friend. Thank you. I'm learning from my friend Betty Fresas, who actually painted my face for my podcast, Juicy Thoughts, which is available on Apple, iTunes,
nice.
and Spotify if you want. But
You
yeah,
know what? Your color and my color combined is actually the flag of the Philippines. Yellow, red, and blue.
mabuhay!
Mabuhay!
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I do want to ask you, just since we talked about joy for a second, what brings you joy, Virginia? Just
All right, now our new president, of course.
Okay,
I
clearly.
can't repeat it any much more, but yeah, no, seriously. Nowadays I just had a cat who's been with me for a month now, and who sleeps with me. And whenever I wake up, he's like on top of my head. I don't know if you've noticed, but all my social media is filled with videos and photos of my
are you a
cat.
cat lady now? Are you a cat?
I am.
lady?
I never realized, but And
What's
there
your,
came a point when I thought that I really needed one. I was really nervous about the election, and I was like, I need a cat, so I got one.
you need that pussy, honey. Just that
Yes,
pussy.
this is one pussy that I can sleep with. Finally,
Finally, what's your pussy's name?
it's Gordon.
Gordon. Oh,
Yes,
so cute.
Gordy.
Gordy.
Not
Okay.
here right now. He's with Neil. So my
Okay.
partner.
All right. All right.
Yeah.
Um.
How
Well,
about you, Juicy? What brings you joy? I would like to know. You've been very, very busy during the elections. I see you in the streets,
I know.
news,
I'm doing
campaigning.
all the things.
Thank
I
you for
was.
all that you did, Juicy. But I want
Oh,
to hear. Yeah.
thank you. I
Yeah.
mean, for me, what brings me joy is seeing people figure out something that they're passionate in, and
Mm,
then just kind of giving them a little gentle push,
mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
and then seeing it just blossom and
Mm,
grow and
yeah.
explode and just sort of like and all I did was just a little. You can
Mm.
do it, like a gentle coaching, like a gentle
Mentorship.
mentorship or whatever,
Yeah.
or just a friendly support,
Mm,
and that really brings me joy,
yeah.
because then you just see, like, for example, we have Runway coming up, Gappa Runway,
Yes.
on November 21st, just in about 10 days or 9 days now. And it was literally like, should we have some kind of virtual runway because of COVID? And we should totally do something. And and our Mr. Gappa right now, Sanjeev, who we actually interviewed it last month, I literally was just like, Sanjeev, you should totally do it. Gentle push, and just and help. And then now it's just suddenly it's a show, honey. Okay, we have
Yes.
special guests. We have Assembly Member Chu appearing at our VIP. You want to be VIP, honey? You need to upgrade yourself. Check it out, tinyurl.com/. Runway 2020. I think Runway 2020 is the URL, but or gappa.org/runway. There's lots of ways to get to that event, right? But buy a ticket, help us out. We need your support. Oh,
Yes.
this is a Mr. Gappa. We are in the presence of royalty. I was a Miss Gappa 2016, and
I
Jeff.
was Mr. Gappa 2012.
Yes, and then also, we have so much Gappa love here. If
Yes.
you at all, we would love to support our friends at Gappa, and I take that. And what is Gappa? Gappa is, actually, I'll ask you, Virginia, what is Gappa? I want to know what you say Gappa is.
Okay, I would always refer back to my experience the first time I attended the pageant, and it was I was very new. It was my first year or second year here. And when I attended the pageant, I was so blown away with the number of people who looked like me. And so that really is the crux of GAPA for me, is a space for queer APIs to just gather together, express themselves freely, and celebrate each other. That's what GAPA is.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much, because we have our official mission statement. If folks don't know, I'm like the chair of GAPA right now, is my alter ego, but I always love to hear from, especially our GAPA immortals, our past winners of GAPA Runway, kind of what is GAPA and what it means to you. And so thank you for, we need more representation. We need more queer API representation in all levels of society, including government, including, on TV. We need it everywhere. And that's what this show is about, I think. In my heart of hearts, what is Queer Thoughts? It's just it's our thoughts on everything and anything. And I'm the hyper one, and Virginia's the keep it steady. Let's go.
I wish. I'm not steady at all. Do you see these bangs? Are they steady?
Oh, they look real good, hun.
Thank
They look
you.
real good, sis.
Okay.
Speaking of pageantry, we're talking about pageantry in politics, and we just literally saw a big ass pageantry in politics, the election, and then the acceptance speech of Joe. How did you feel about did you live your fantasy? Did you just live? Did you live it?
Girl, I was half drunk in the Castros. I totally lived it. Oh my God. No, it started with Kamala, and it's just like it was all not what I wouldn't say what all the hardships were worded, but it was like a dream to see a Black woman, stand there and address the entire nation as vice president. I couldn't believe my eyes, and I had to, you have to believe it because it's happening. And that was just, for me, that was the most wonderful moment. And then Joe came in and addressed the whole nation again. And, that was just another gift on top of each other. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
on top, and also don't forget, Kamala is, also the first South Asian
exactly.
person of just South Asian descent, and so like
Yeah.
to see an Asian American on
Mhm.
like in the White House, it's still sort of
Yes.
sinking in. It's still sort of
Right?
like, oh
Yeah.
my goodness, and that she recognized her mother, who's an
Mhm.
immigrant.
Yep.
Indian. I just see a lot of like my parents' story in her story, and she also is a Hastings alum. I went to Hastings, UC
Mm.
Hastings, the first ever Hastings alum to become vice president. It's a law school if you don't know, but I'm a lawyer. I'm a lawyer.
She's a lawyer, darling.
But also that's a very proud moment too. It's sort of like, wow.
Yeah.
I followed Kamala since she was DA in San
Mm.
Francisco, and then
Yeah.
AG of California, and now senator, and then now vice president elect. So it's just, but the pageantry, darling, the pageantry.
Pageantry,
Was it? Didn't
yes.
you love like that the drive-in feel, and then they had like in Wilmington, Delaware, which I've never been to Wilmington, but it looks like cool. It looks cool. I don't know.
Hmm,
But
hmm.
then you go the same day when like, did you see the whole thing with the Rudy Giuliani with like his thing at the Four Seasons landscape, total landscape? It's supposed to be pageantry. He set up a press conference, but
Hmm.
I guess somebody in the Trump campaign just didn't do it right, and they booked the wrong place. So they booked like a parking lot in a landscaping place between like a porn store and a
Hmm.
crematorium. That
Hmm.
in Philadelphia, just outside of Philadelphia, the
Yeah.
same day that like Joe Biden accepts nomination, and
Yeah.
here you go with Rudy. Rudy just kind of like
Yeah.
the whole thing. Anyway, sorry, I'm
It's
just like
nah, no, no,
pageantry.
you're right. It's really interesting to, could you imagine politics without the pageantry?
Mm-mm.
No,
No, it's a show,
exactly.
honey. It's a show.
Yeah.
It's like a
Yeah,
drag
yeah.
queen organized that shit, like made it
Yeah.
look cute.
It's almost
Everybody.
like a script that's already written, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And people just need to react to that script. And that's why sometimes I feel a little bit disillusioned, but we do what we gotta do. We fight for the right thing. And
Mm-hmm.
we fight for our democracy. And that's why, hence we've elected the rightful vice president and president today, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of drag shows, so I do want to shout out. I have a drag show tomorrow with
Mm-hmm.
Sanjeev and Mocha Fapalate, our current reigning Mr. and Miss Kappa, and then also Snacks, a beautiful performer, drag performer. We're taking Gappa taking over Oasis.
Mm-hmm.
So the link for that is tinyurl. .com/Gappa Oasis, and that's actually
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow, Friday the 13th. There's a
Mm-hmm.
6 o'clock, a 7 o'clock, and an 8 o'clock show. Oasis, if you don't know, is like the premier drag
Mm-hmm.
performance venue in San Francisco, and so we're so excited, but we're a little bit nervous because there's rain. There's supposed to rain. It's
Mm.
gonna be Rain on Me, Lady Gaga, Ariana Grande,
Oh,
all of
Lady
it.
Gaga moment right there. It's an opportunity.
But yeah, if you want to go support us, and also we're gonna
Yeah.
plug a lot of runway stuff. But
Yeah.
it's in my first in-person live drag show for the whole since March.
Mhm.
It's
Ooh,
gonna be crazy.
cool.
I'm a little bit
Yeah,
nervous.
shout out to Sanjeev and Mocha though. They've made this entire year during the rain their own. And and I'm very excited for the show that they're the runway that's happening on the 21st.
Yeah.
And I'm working on it as well, and as well as our producer Yancy. So it's gonna be great.
Yes, it's gonna be so amazing. Well, I was gonna, since we have an interviewee here, and we want to make sure
Mm-hmm.
we get to Michelle here.
Yep.
So, I'm gonna channel my inner Gaijin Oprah here, and also maybe my inner Baba Wawa. Just sort of like a do the thing. And actually, Michelle's bio is so long that it's
Extensive.
so extensive and
To
so
say the least.
comprehensive
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
it's gonna take two drag queens to do it justice.
Exactly.
So join me, Virginia. All right, here we
Okay.
go. Here we go. Michelle Meow, host and producer of the Michelle Meow Show, is your A to Z covering the LGBT, LMNOP, and everything in between. She attended San Francisco State University and received a BA in broadcast journalism, and shortly thereafter started her career in radio. Michelle's show can be heard in San Francisco and nationally on the Progressive Voices Network. The local TV show can be seen on KBCW TV, Channel 44, Cable 712, Sunday nights at 10:30 p.m. In late 2017, Michelle began producing programs at the iconic Commonwealth Club of California, dedicated to conversations around social justice with an intersectional lens. She has interviewed notable thought leaders such as Olympic medalist Adam Rippon, NFL's first out LGBTQ coach Katie Sowers, first American woman in space Sally Ride's widow Tam O'Shaughnessy, actresses Julianne Moore, Ellen Page, Lillian Tomlin, and more. Her interviews also include local dignitaries, community advocates, and elected leaders.
And my turn. Michelle has also been a co-host of the San Francisco Pride Parade broadcast since 2006. She served as board president of the San Francisco Pride Board of Directors from 2015 to 2018. I was there to witness everything that she did, and she's amazing. She is a self-described LGBTQI plus history geek, information sponge, and a lover, not a fighter. You can catch more of Michelle at www.michellemeow.com.
Welcome to the stage, Michelle Meow!
Oh my gosh, you two are so fun. I love it.
Thanks for being here, Michelle.
Oh my God, Michelle.
I'm so excited, especially that you thought of me in a time of, a crunch time, I should say.
Yes.
Time of need.
Time of need. Anytime I need something, I need help. Is my teeth something in my teeth? No.
This is really interesting because the tables have turned. Michelle has interviewed both of us, Juicy, right?
Yes.
And now we're interviewing her. So
Yes. Now it's our turn.
Bear with me, and I sure do have my cocktail to give you my all.
All right. Why won't we do a toast for this moment?
Oh,
Michelle,
sure.
Yes. Where's your drink, Juicy? A toast to Michelle. We are really honored that you're here. And so we celebrate all of you today. Thank you, Michelle.
Oh,
Thank you,
my
Michelle.
God. Wow.
It's so good.
Thank you. I'm honored, and you're making me so shy.
Oh no, you're great, Michelle. So let's kick it off. I kind of borrowed from your show actually. Why don't you kind of tell us sort of your coming out story, your journey, and maybe when you first identified as an activist.
Oh my gosh, how long do we have? Most LGBTQI plus folks will tell you that coming out is a lifelong process, and there's really no one coming out story. But I will tell you the official, at least to my family, and coming out to an Asian conservative mom wasn't easy, and I think I share that story with many folks. But I came to San Francisco for college. My older brother came out first, and so he came out to me, and basically kind of gave me a warning, like you know where you're from, how we grew up. That's not the case here in San Francisco. People have different political beliefs. People have different hair color. People dress differently. And I ended up meeting some of his friends. And I remember meeting this one girl, and I thought she was so cool. She was this Chinese woman dressed in all black and wore like these huge platform, shoes, and had hot pink hair. And I just remembered being so enamored with her, and obviously like attracted to her, and said to my brother, I was like, well, I want to be friends with your friends. And anyway, but yeah, when I came out to San Francisco, for college, and I ended up meeting some friends. I met a woman, and she pulled me in the bushes one day, made out with me.
Oh,
She had a boyfriend. I had a boyfriend.
wow.
And so to me, it was like exploration. It felt safe. And we both were like, okay, well, whatever. We have boyfriends and we have girlfriends, and they won't mind. But it was the first time that I really felt something. I felt activity. I felt sparks. I felt like, something was right. and making out with this woman that led to making love to a woman for the first time, and we made love to Enrique Iglesias, all night long.
Oh.
So I started going home, all dressed in rainbow everything, like
Wow.
rainbow bracelets and rainbow t-shirts. And so my younger sister, it was Thanksgiving actually, which is coming up,
Mm-hmm.
said to my mom at the dinner table, is like, do you recognize why she's always dressed in rainbow now? My mom's like, she's so cute. Like, she loves so many different colors. Because in high school, I really was not colorful. I was super, like Daria, for example, super in dark colors, and just kind of didn't talk to anybody. So my mom was happy that I was wearing colors, and my sister was like, no, it's because she's gay. And my mom was so like, no, no, she has a boyfriend. That can't be. What can women do if they're gay? And my sister was like, they, touch vaginas. And it was so embarrassing. And then my mom was all concerned, like, are they hurting you?
Oh.
Fingers. I'm like, but it would go on, for years. Like, it took my mom quite a long time to really come to terms with my sexuality.
Mm.
And we'll save that for a different question.
That's an amazing story. Thank you for sharing that, Michelle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
anytime.
Yeah.
Especially if you ever want to know, what's it like to touch vaginas, or as my mom would say, bump vaginas. Those were her words.
She said bump vaginas.
Yeah, yes, she did. And she
Oh,
was like, what's it like?
Your mom
wow.
is pretty cool that she's able to have a conversation with you like that, though, because my parents can't. I mean, how about you, Juicy?
Well, actually, funny story. When like the day after I came out to my mom, she was like, "I just want to make sure that you use a lot of lube because I hear it hurts a lot." And I was like, "Oh my god, mom!" Like, she was just like, "I just don't want you to hurt," And I'm like, first of all, how dare you? Just kidding. Anyway, but it's not about me. It's not about me. It's about Michelle. And so, Michelle, when did you? I mean, would you consider yourself an activist now? I guess.
No, I've never actually considered myself an activist. I think, to me, when I jumped into media, it was over 10 years ago, and I got an internship with at the time they were called Clear Channel. Now they're called iHeart Radio, and they owned all the radio stations in the country.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't see queer people on the air, and if I knew that they were LGBTQ, they weren't out. And most of the people obviously were not even people of color.
Yeah.
And I kind of just thought about it in this way where, well, why isn't that, why aren't there gay people on the air and out and talking about our issues just like we're doing right now,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I in my mind, didn't think that it was activism. It was just the right thing to do. And, till this day, when I think about all those folks who are doing grassroots organizing, who are protesting, who are on the streets, who are providing services for all of our most vulnerable, who are actually saving lives. I mean, whatever I do is nothing in comparison to those heroes and sheroes. So yeah, when you asked me that question, you wrote it down. I was like, I'm not an activist.
Yeah.
Well, you're definitely a shero for me. So
Oh,
for being so visible, that's a big deal. Being visible, I think.
No, I like the idea of the idea of activists becoming not just exclusive for activists, but the idea that all are activists in the context of doing the right thing. It makes it more accessible for everyone, to join the fight to do the right thing. So I really like that, Michelle.
yeah, thank you. When I thought about getting into media, I had actually said in college, because I went to school for broadcast, right, that I was going to do something that was more focused on Asian American issues. So I would do like an Asian American blog or a show or something like that, but never an LGBTQ one, because back then it was like, well, who's going to listen to you? And plus,
Mm.
I didn't want to get beat up or like, all these things that were going through my mind
Mhm.
before I really, really came out into the world. But like I said, it was kind of one of those things where I felt like, well, if I don't speak up or if I don't do this and it feels like it's the right thing to do, then, where would we be? And
Mhm.
10 plus years later, we have LGBTQ people who are elected leaders. We have,
Yes.
super successful shows on the air, super successful people who are producers and directors, and more people who are on the air. I wish that there were more queer people in political talk. And
Mhm.
and thank goodness for Rachel Maddow, super fan.
Yes.
But there should be way more Rachel Maddows.
Right.
Yes, definitely.
So
Yeah.
so since we're talking about broadcasting, and actually I didn't go to school for broadcasting. I don't know, Virginia, did you go to school for broadcasting?
Not specifically broadcasting. I went to school for video production and filmmaking. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, so what would actually what informs your work as a broadcaster, and maybe like how do you do it? Like because you're very successful. Like so.
Wow. Thank you so much. You're making me shy again.
Mhm.
Um, I'm super humbled to even be able to talk about it in this way, and somebody actually thinks that what I do or what I have done is successful. We're not given that chance over 10 years ago, and at that point, I remember going on the air talking about no on 8, Proposition 8 here in California, which was the proposition for same-sex marriage. And then we'd go on commercial break and there would be all kinds of commercials for yes on 8.
Mhm.
And at that time, like, it really made sense to me, who owns the media and how much influence money actually has
Mhm.
in media and politics and issues that impact our lives. So I've always been independent. I had to. I had to leave. The company wasn't going to back me in doing a show, even a late night show on LGBTQI issues, because it doesn't sell, or there wasn't enough behind it to make it as if it was worth the money to invest in it.
Mhm.
So I went independent and asked some sponsors, like we have done in a lot of our movement, like the Pride movement, right? You find
Mhm.
a couple folks who believe in this, who believe in you, who believe in equal rights, and say, let's do this, even if it's independent. So as a broadcaster, what do? You put out content, you put out information, an opportunity for people to hear the truth, to hear other people's truths, and it is your life's goal to expand the platform for how people get that information, where they get it, and not at the expense or at the cost of their own detriment. Say, for example, you can only hear the truth if you're rich enough to do so.
Mm.
So that might be a whole new different perspective than mainstream media,
Yeah.
because the name of the game and what mainstream media does is all dependent on money, unfortunately.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
That's
You gotta pay the broadcasters, right? You gotta pay the fees for, I don't know. I'm just thinking of like the advertisers have to support the media. It seems
yeah.
like.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Advertisements and
Yeah.
influence in that way. So I feel very lucky to be able to evolve, in this way, and to be able to be a part of a media partnerships with people like the Commonwealth Club of California. It's a nonprofit organization. They're nonpartisan, and we can have these effective conversations around controversial topics or not controversial topics,
mhm.
but that it empowers us to speak our truth.
Yeah, yeah, that's really, really interesting, Michelle, because these are really interesting times, and we have I don't know if you could consider them broadcasters, but we have follow cult followings like the QAnon, who did
Mhm.
not take the elections quite well, the results, who in fact were very successful, in their plight, and happened all in their household setting. So it's a really interesting time. So I'm just really curious, like, where do you find and how do you carve your space in these types of situations right now, wherein anyone could literally have the power to influence people with their ideologies. And so I'm interested on how you're thinking about this time and how you're bringing your influence and as well as your ideologies and as well as community into where we are right now.
I used to think that I had to convince the world that, as a queer person, I'm okay. I'm just like you,
Mhm.
and you should accept me, and I'm not sick or not perverted, all these things. And over the course of my career, that obviously has changed. And at this point in time, and having gone through the last 4 years and seeing, you know, with my eyes and with my ears and hearing it and the differences um, that we're all addressing now, which seems to be, America being at war with itself,
Mhm.
and the enemy are all these issues that prevents us from truly being like whole and equal and healthy. So racism, income inequality, the especially institutionalized and systemic racism, and yeah, poverty, and keeping people just not being able to access things that make them whole.
Mhm.
um that was really all of these things coupled with that. What we really need to do is be able to talk about ourselves and our differences, and share them in a way in which people aren't afraid of our differences. And so that's why I feel like the interviews that I've been choosing in the last 4 years have been very much focused on bringing communities together for whatever our shared values are.
Mhm.
So, talking to a lot of pro democracy activists from around the world, and asking young folks and future generations if it's climate justice that you're interested in or freedom of expression, freedom of speech, what does that mean to you?
Mhm.
And I think, there are answers that can be applied to all of these things that adults are so afraid of when they look in the mirror, especially American adults, and not addressing a lot of the issues that we've not taken care of for generations and generations beforehand.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you for doing that and bringing that intersectional lens, really, and that's really what the Commonwealth Club is about. Like, kind of, it seems like your show is around by just your existence of the show. The mere existence of your show is creating that space. I think that's a little bit of the answer, and then also you're here now with us and creating more space within this community,
Exactly.
within this channel, and shout out to the Vietnamese folks out there who are watching, if there are any, because this is the Southeast Asian Chopsticks Alley, so it's like Vietnamese, like Filipino, like Cambodian, Laotian, South, a lot of like Singaporean, all that stuff. But anyways,
Right.
um, I want to talk about a quick thing about the big scale events. Like a lot of broadcasters would cover maybe big scale events, like, and so but our big scale events in our QT API community was like Gappa Runway, or like the API QT banquet, the APink uh thanks, like, basically Day of Remembrance, Day of Remembrance Thanksgiving event that's coming up on the 22nd. Shout out to them. And Capia conference, so many things. There's big, to me, it's all pageantry, right? It's pageantry, it's politics, and it's our community bringing us together, convenings. Like, how do we now do it within the COVID space? Like, and how do we push that message? Like, what are your thoughts on this?
Oh gosh, there's there's so many. I think we're all trying things out. I
Yeah.
don't, and I think we're all, it's messy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't There's no one real answer to it, and this is the point in time in which everything that we had done before isn't going to work. Even during, the Pride season, I mean, this year I wasn't super involved with San Francisco Pride as I had traditionally been. and got pulled into a project that I'm super proud and honored, to say that Jethro also, or I'm sorry, Virginia, please,
Virginia, please. I should change my name here.
was also a part of as a producer, but we produced Global Pride,
Mhm.
and in partnership with the folks over at Interpride and the European Pride Organizers Association, and partnering with over 1,500 Pride organizations from around the world. That it also included messages from world leaders and also videos from musicians. I mean, Elton John and his partner, his husband David Furnish, sent in a video and then gave
Yeah.
us access to some of their past acts, and Adam Lambert. I mean, gosh, I can't even believe we pulled it off. The YouTube was
Joe
a partner.
Biden also sent a message, Michelle, right? Mhm.
Yep, that was right. Now
President Joe Biden.
President-elect Joe
Yeah.
Biden had sent a message. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Sharice Davids, first Native American bisexual elected, leader, was also a part of that. And even Prince Manvendra of India. I mean,
Mm.
the list goes on. But what I wanted to say was we had no idea what we were doing. We had no idea that it was even possible, and it was impossible. And we almost gave up several times.
Mhm.
But what was miraculous about it was all these queer folks from around the country was like, we have to do something.
Yeah.
You can't just not do Pride or not do anything. And there are so many young people, there are so many people from around the world, who are going to be negatively impacted by COVID. Some Pride organizations might not come back because, let's face it, some Pride organizations live paycheck to paycheck. It's not like we do this thing because we're all getting rich. We're doing this thing because visibility is the backbone of our movement, right? But gosh, we did it. We went
did
live
it.
for over 28 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, we went live for over 28 hours. We had thousands of submissions, and we went live from hour by hour around the country, and had submissions from I forget how many countries, but it amounted to over 57 million views.
Oh, that's incredible.
And you got everything that was celebratory, to the seriousness, to the what do we need to do next. And
Yeah.
so I urge anybody right now during COVID, you just got to do it, and you got to try it. And what is failure right now? Failure is just not doing it.
Yeah, as I was editing all of the content, Michelle, all of the content came to me. I just couldn't help but notice each of the content that's coming from each of the countries, and I'm telling you, it was such a surreal experience to see people like you expressing themselves the way they're expressing, with the context of where they are and who they are, from each country, and that was priceless for me as the main editor to be able to see that all of that content, and which I could proudly say that not a lot of people could experience, except for you Michelle, and all the other producers. So I was very lucky to be part of that project. So thank you so much for having me in that
Oh
project.
yeah, no, it was only possible because of the community coming together and individuals like Virginia, please.
Yeah.
We you know how we didn't even have any money. Like, we had no money to do this. There was
Wow.
no money.
Yeah.
We had a team of over 20 volunteer producers, and
Whoa.
they were all over the world. So it's not like they were even working together in the same studio. Everybody was working virtually. Some
Yeah.
people didn't even speak English, but we were just kind of making it work, making it happen. Creating a style guide, a brand book for every producer to go out there. I heard stories from after the fact that some people were sleeping at their office, didn't have any sleep at all,
Oh.
grinding it, making sure we got this all together. And then, the team over at the Commonwealth Club helped me go live, and they were live editing as we go. It was intense. It was like driving flying an airplane with only a day of training, to be able to pull that off. And we had very few glitches, but gosh, that that was obviously history. It's never been done
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
And the world had come together for queer rights.
Yep.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah,
amazing.
163 countries.
100, thank you. 163
Wow.
countries. And
That's
you know who
amazing.
voiced the top of every hour, which Virginia Please was a part of, was Laverne Cox. And
Wow.
at the top of
Yes.
every hour was a
Mhm.
historical piece on Stonewall,
Mhm.
and just kind of, our honor and our ode back to Marsha P. Johnson
Yes.
and the Black trans women who are very much right the foundation of the queer rights liberation movement. Anyway,
Yes.
I can talk a lot. You guys should ask me questions.
No, well, no, thank you for that. And what, but just to, what an accomplishment, World Pride. And, it's kind of what make the beauty of this media format, that the thing that we have, right? What is the tools available to us? We still had a World Pride. I mean, I went to World Pride in 2019 for New York City Pride, New York Pride, right? And that felt like a World Pride too. It was a massive event, like 7 million people in the one city kind of thing. But I feel like just as important is this macro made micro, a 28-hour YouTube streaming event that's more accessible probably billions of people, to be honest. And the fact that you can, Virginia, you saw, like, the main message is the same. We're all human. We're all just trying to make it in this world. We're all just trying to live our lives and exist and have our families and love each other. And so, we are love. And so I'm so thankful for you, Michelle. And this is so when I hear that you don't want to say you're an activist, I'm like, you're doing an activist thing. You made something happen. You changed the world. You literally changed the world. So, like, thank you, Michelle, for that. Oh my gosh. I do want to keep asking some questions though about a little bit, bring it back more to our queer and trans API culture now, because I feel like, I mean, all three of us are leaders in very different circles, but what does, we talked about like politics and we talked about pageantry, but I haven't really heard too much about queer and trans API people in politics. What do you think about, what does politics look like in our culture, just generally? Like, what are your thoughts on this?
Wow, what a great question. Last night my mom called me and she has a Facebook account now. And I don't know if that's good or bad. It's weird. How about that? And so we're friends on Facebook. And so she's now just seeing, stuff that I'm posting. So while she's super excited about, President-elect Joe Biden and VP-elect Kamala Harris, it's a big deal for her. She did call me yesterday and was like, I had a thought and I'm super worried now, because all these protests are happening now that President Trump, has lost his campaign. And I'm worried that you might be the target of any kind of violence.
Yeah.
So I think that you should take, some of this stuff down, or I don't know, maybe don't be too vocal. Like, don't talk a lot. Don't say too many things, which I know all of us, have been told to do that, right? Like, just don't be the disruptor. Don't be the drama. Don't bring attention to you. Stay silent. And so when I think about, queer APIs in politics, I am so grateful to the courageous folks who will lead, like Representative Adrian Tam, who won his election out in Hawaii and was running against a proud boy or proud boys, those white supremacists. How about that?
Yeah.
And aren't backing down and aren't being quiet and are being out in not just being queer, but also Asian American and or young or liberal, or just standing their ground and being confident of who they are. And so I'm excited about that. But I also learned a lot in these last 4 years in terms of elected leaders, Asian American community, and our queer community, and the intersections around that, and how much work we actually have to do in crossing over to different generations and different cultural backgrounds, because I think sometimes people look at the Asian American community or voting bloc as just that, a block,
Mm-hmm.
when it's not a monolith, and we're as different as can be, like
Yes.
even the Vietnamese American community, and there's a whole lot there that I think that at the end of the day, yes, there's progress, but there's also a whole lot of work to do.
Yes, I definitely agree. And we had a whole show about how Vietnamese Americans are that you created. Thank you for creating that space at the Commonwealth Club about Vietnamese Americans becoming more progressive, and then talking about maybe why was there such a loyalty to the GOP, but also, by the way, Pivot, the progressive Vietnamese organization, just released some kind of graphic and the narrative. Do you believe the narrative that there's really that much allegiance to GOP? We could talk about that forever, but I do want to talk about specific folks. There was something that happened in this election cycle locally in the Fremont area with Lucy Shen, who's identifies as non-binary and was running for first time running for a Fremont school board. Which actually, by the way, an interview with Lucy Shen will be at Runway next week. Don't forget, Runway 2020 is happening. But we're interviewing, and Jezebel Patel, the host of Runway 2020, is going to be doing an exclusive interview with Lucy about their first time running for things. But they were actually attacked online and Twitter by a lot of conservative Chinese Americans, and not just Lucy, but also Justin Shaw, who was running for Mayor of Fremont. Who didn't win, but he placed second in his first time ever running for mayor. I mean, come on, he's like a young guy. And then also Alex Lee, who will be our first openly bisexual assembly member and the youngest elected. He's 25. He's an assembly member down in San Jose. He was also attacked on Twitter. Like, so there's all these attacks that are happening, and it's really from the Chinese American community. I'm not. None of us here are Chinese, but what are your thoughts on all these things? Like, why are they hating so much? I don't like.
Is that a question for me or
Sure, the world, also the
Virginia?
world.
Oh, wow. That's another, great question and a tough one. Again, there's like so much work to do. I also truly believe, the internet is just not the space for some of these hard conversations, to be had. And the attacks online, I mean, you could be anybody. You could be on the other side, and people are being attacked for who they are. But at the same time, I think it just goes back to like what I was talking about. It's very real. The conservative, person in our community versus the not conservative person, or the person in the middle versus the person who's on the extreme left or right. And we got to do a better job, in my opinion, at least, to really not focus on the identity of where you stand politically. Because I think one of the strengths in our community, the Asian American community, is connecting over something else. Cultural differences, food, even experiences of immigration, or experiences of being business owners, or experiences of being each other's neighbor. And I just think that we could do a better job. Unfortunately, COVID is here, and that makes it a little bit harder. But at the same time, it's also an opportunity for us to really reach out to other communities and help each other out. And what I mean by that is, is it going around in your community ensuring everybody has a mask, raising enough dollars to get masks to get everybody, protected in your community? Most people are going to see you as wanting to be a part of it versus saying that, hey, because you're a crazy liberal or, the other side, we don't want these masks. I just wanted to give an example of like there's just different ways to connect with other people versus just focusing on the politics. And I know for a fact that anybody who's running for elected office these days are doing that exact thing.
Crickets. Just kidding. No, I agree 100%. I do want to. I have been talking a lot, So, but and asking all these questions. But Virginia, do you have
No,
any
no,
questions?
yeah, it's, my mind is like so many things happening in my mind. I mean, it's one question to ask, like, will we ever, as API queers, have the platform to even run for, and we have a few, but you know, I'm just going back to history and looking at queer people who really present as queer, who have tried the game and actually ran for public office. So for example, Jose Sarria in 1961, he was a drag queen, and then we have Sister Boom Boom in 1982, who ran for supervisor and mayor here in San Francisco, part of the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. But there, and then we have what's his name, Janet Jett in 1992 who ran for president, and presented as queer as well. But the campaign was mainly for visibility of queer people, and so no, in my mind, when will we ever have that platform as APIs who present like this and will be respected and honored as formal and respectable candidates for public office. These things are running off my mind. So it's really, really interesting. Yeah.
I guess, I have a different perspective in that I don't see us not having that space. I think our space is growing, and I think that it's going to get stronger and stronger. And I think we're making, alliance with the right people. And what I mean by that is, again, speaking up against racial injustice, speaking up against, or fighting for climate justice, or fighting for housing, fighting for these issues that impact all of our communities. I think that's the space, that's the opportunity for us to really gather the support that we need. And it's no longer, that dependence on big money to run our campaigns. I think younger elected leaders who are queer and API are finding that kind of support and are obviously winning, right? Like, I mean, even surprising moderate Democrats or what you would call, the established Democrats on issues that I think are sometimes surprising for even voters outside of the Asian American community. When you got a young API queer person standing for the rights of, Black folks and standing on the side for Black Lives Matter and talking about all of the issues that impact the Black community, you're going to have generations that are, this sounds radical, or this sounds it sounds new. It sounds like something that I don't understand. I think that is the power. That actually is the power. And if we could continue doing that, we could make a whole lot of change and create even more space for other young API queer, super queer, API folks to continue running.
Yeah, I will. I will just make a plug right now for GAPA because but there's also APINC, there's also APIQC, but I mean, there's all these organizations of just queer API people, and like Parivar. There's so many in the Bay Area. But would you say that we are, as a QT API community, are organized for politics? Like, do you think? Would you say that, Michelle? Just sort of as a broadcaster, journalist type person?
What we could do better of is just exactly why you're asking that question. Do I think that it's super defined in terms of, how we organize and build up a community that's super focused on queer, API folks? Maybe not. It almost feels like we're in silos and kind of in partnership with many other different organizations. Is that bad? No, I don't think so. I think that again is part of our strength. Is being able to understand the diversity and the issues at hand here in protecting the most marginalized. But at the same time, would it hurt us to organize and come together to create even more power by specifically organizing for queer API folks? no, it would not hurt us. And like I said, I think that we could do a much better job in being driven or targeted in that way. I mean, we need it. You already have some successful elected leaders like Evan Lowe.
Yep.
What has he learned by being one of the first queer Asian young elected officials out there and having to go through the ugly and the pretty of politics. I think that he's done an incredible job of being able to work with both conservatives and liberals, but he definitely has taken the heat on both sides and in terms of issues. And so it's like, where do we go from there? Because we certainly can't just drop off and say, okay, who's the next Evan Lowe? But we got to bring in the Evan Lowe's and the Adrian Tams, and then say, how do we continue this? How do we build coalition? How do we even build power within the Asian American community, the queer community, and then come together collectively?
I'm gonna ask one more. I'm gonna ask one more hard question. I'm sorry. I gotta ask this one because I also want to shout out Janice Lee, who is one of our BART board directors. But there is a question, here in the Bay Area, why aren't there more queer API women running for these elected office? Is it just because elected office is pretty much tilted as a patriarchy? Like, is that the reason? Or how do we, is it a pipeline issue? Is it what do you think about this? Because it's a huge question and you only have 2 minutes.
That is a question, that would be great for Janice Lee. She ran a successful, campaign, but I know she had great support.
Yeah.
Wonderful support. So there's that. I think that there just has to be much more support and open, calling in. I like to use that word. I think there would be more API queer women who would run. But the San Francisco Bay Area is also pretty saturated with some amazing, awesome, talented people. So to be honest, like if you were to ask me to run against, some of these incredible folks who are running for office in the Bay Area, I would never run. I'd be so scared.
So we all gotta be like Sam Park and just live in Georgia or something like that. I love Sam Park.
Yeah, no, I thought about it. Andrew Yang moved to Georgia, and it's like, well, sorry, excuse my language. maybe we could do some of that, but I suspect that more people of color, especially Asian queer people, will run even outside of the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm looking, South Bay, East Bay, all the way out to the Tri-Valley area. Doing all these interviews at the Commonwealth Club, I'll tell you that representation does matter. And when you see people who look like you and they're successful and they're winning those campaigns, like that's infectious. Like that does actually help people say, I can do it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. You said something earlier, Michelle, that struck a chord in me, and I'd like us to rewind back a little. I mean, you asked earlier, Juicy, are we organized? And Michelle, you piggybacked and said, is it defined? I know we all know the answer to this, but I'd like to maybe have this opportunity to define, why do we need to organize as queer API in the first place? What are we fighting for in the very first place? Why do we need to be there? Why do we need representation? What does it mean to queer APIs out there that don't know their community? What happens to them if there's no representation? Maybe we could define that first and foremost, right? I'm gonna throw that question to you, Michelle and Juicy.
Yeah.
Juicy,
you want to go first?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm as a leader of GAPA for the past 4 years, and sort of just kind of being thrown into it. You were talking about pageantry. I become Miss GAPA, and then I became the leader of GAPA, and then I was thrown into sort of the politics of San Francisco politics, and sort of a representative of the gay Asian community, the LGBTQ API community, without knowing anything. I'm just sort of like, I just won a drag competition, and then I went to a dim sum, and suddenly I am this person now. People look to me for guidance. And I've been asked this question a lot, like, why do we need to even be organized? And the answer to me is that the only way that we can succeed and grow our power is by organizing, is just getting to know each other. And getting to know each other is seeing a face on television that looks like your own. And so that's why it was so important when Kamala Harris, as vice president-elect, was speaking, because it was like, oh, I know that story. And it's very much like my story. And it's also very important when I see Evan Lowe speaking when he was like the national co-chair for Andrew Yang's campaign. That's kind of huge, like a big national thing. That was like, oh, I know Evan. We went to Game Boy together and hang out. But also he's like this big dude, Oh, and then Alex Lee, so young and so energetic and so powerfully progressive, just going out there and winning the dang thing, and winning his primary and winning the general election. It's just to Michelle's point, seeing representative people in politics winning, but then knowing that they only won because they were organized, and they organized a coalition, they organized volunteers, and so like building organizations like GAPA, which I feel very proud of in the past 4 years of helping build up and grow our organization, as just being kind of being more, more growing out processes and infrastructure and kind of boring things, but also learning from other community leaders like Michelle Meow, who joined our advisory board. So just growing that organization is so important to building our power. And if you're at all interested in building power, and I would say you build it, and you need to take it too. Like you need to be at the table. If you're not building and taking it power, then you're being told what to do.
You kind of answered it, Juicy, which is really helpful as well. But I'm still wondering, like, why do we need to be organized? Why do we need that power? What are the reasons why we need to have power as queer API? What are the basic things that we're fighting for?
Well, Michelle, you go. Your turn.
Gosh, there's so much, and it goes back to just how diverse even our communities are. I think it's so interesting, when you get yourself into politics and you start reading what the media says about your community, like, oh, well, Asian Americans, make X amount of money, and they're usually these people, and they live here, or they're educated, all these things, and you're like, well, that's not the case in the community that I grew up in, and you start to want to make those misinformation right information or factual. And I think it goes back to how much that even for a person like myself had to educate, like my parents who voted for the first time, or my community, who were voting against like my interests or my rights, even if they cared about me. And so if you're not organizing and we're not creating, this power, then it means that we are not talking to each other. We are not calling people in and making sure that their voices are heard and your voices are heard. And if that doesn't happen, you risk losing that voice to someone else. There was one interview that I did, and it was an Asian American woman, an immigrant refugee. And if she won her election, she was running for judge. And if she won her election, it would have made, history as the first Laotian American judge in Mecklenburg County, North Carolina. But something that she had shared with me in terms of the strategy and the party that she was affiliated with, because of a policy that had passed that made, their judicial court become partisan.
Whoa.
People, yeah, right. But if you didn't know that, you would just judge that person because of the party affiliation. But we don't really understand, as people of color, what we have to go through in order to even be at the table or to be even considered, in our elections. So that was a really long way and a really long answer of telling you that if we're not talking to each other, we're not building the power, we're not organizing, and we're not being honest and truthful about, the things that are impacting us the most, there are other forces that will, take your voice away, take your vote away. The Republican Party has done an incredible job in reaching out to other communities of color, in directing their resources, getting people elected to certain positions. and calling people into, you know, their party in this way. It's a strategy to open and grow their party base. There's nothing bad about that. But again, you know, if we're more honest and we're focused on our interests, then
Yeah.
it's a better approach. Anyway,
Definitely. Yeah, you're so right, Michelle. You know, I would also add that, you know, being queer in API is such a specific intersectional experience, which can be very isolating, you know. And so if you don't see anyone or any organization that represents us, it can even be more isolating. So imagine if you don't know anyone or who to reach out to, where would you be as a queer API? So I think for me, that is the very basic essence of what we're fighting for. You know, we're trying to reach out to these really marginalized sectors of our society, queer APIs that really need the help that organizations such as GAPA can provide them with, that programs like the Michelle Meow and the Commonwealth Club can inform them with. And I think that's what we're fighting for representation. We're fighting for platform and more access, you know, and it all boils down to access services that are being offered to our community as queer API, in my opinion.
yeah, fighting for our voice and our own mind. I'll end with this.
Exactly.
You know, my mom's friend said to me,
Mhm.
"Oh, and there's only Fox News that's available where they're at, by the way." So said, you know, the Democrats are communists,
Mhm.
and you know the reason why we don't have a second round of stimulus funding is because of Nancy Pelosi, because she doesn't want to give it to us.
Mhm.
You know, and I'm like, where did you hear that? And they're like, well, Fox News, hello, like, you know, and it's like, I want our people to have the opportunity to make up your mind from your own mind, and that is not robbed, you know, just because you didn't get the education or you don't have a specific job or you don't make X amount of money. That's why it's so important to mobilize, organize, and create our own power.
Yes.
Definitely.
Well, speaking of mobilizing, I want to shout out, if you're watching us on Twitch and you haven't followed Chopsticks Alley, follow Chopsticks Alley, please, and subscribe, like and subscribe on YouTube, Facebook, wherever you are. There's also Juicy Lou Realness. There's my channels on Twitch and everything. And follow Virginia
Virginia,
Pleases
please,
at
on TikTok.
yeah, Virginia_please on TikTok. We just want to promote. Let's shift a little bit. I had a little game. Is it okay if we end sort of like ending with a
Sure.
game?
Yeah, no, that's great. I didn't know you were gonna do such serious talk. I thought you guys were gonna ask me about, you know,
I know, what
getting
kind of
waxed
makeup
for the
are you
first time
using?
by my wife, or
Oh, yes, that
painting
too.
by numbers, painting, you know,
You
Uh,
painted
a
by
tripod
numbers?
star
oh, wow.
Oh
jacket.
wow. Yes.
I love
Anyway.
your jacket, Michelle.
I thought we were talking about Asian things.
We are talking about Asian things. Politics is Asian things.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay,
this
your game.
we're game. Okay, so let's talk. So on my podcast, Juicy Thoughts, we came up with this game, Quick Pro Quo. It's just a this for that. Also, it reminds us of our wonderful president who was impeached about quid pro quo. This for that. It really just means this for that, right? So the aim for this, or I'll give you a choice. Let's play that game or Judge Juicy, where I basically give you a prompt and you're an advocate and you have to argue for it or against it. And I'm your Judge Juicy and I will give my ruling. So you can play one or both, or one or either or both. And Michelle, you make a choice. It's totally improv, by the way.
Okay, wait. I'm lost.
Let's just play a quid pro quo then.
Okay.
Okay.
Which is basically, I give you a little thing and say, what is this version of this, whatever, this for that. And since and it's basically me kind of coming up with a prompt, very off the cuff, very like improv-ish. I did improv comedy for a little bit, and so basically based on a conversation, you know, come up with a little game to play. And so and Virginia's played this game, right? Virginia, you back me up here. You know what I'm doing. You know what we're doing, right? Okay.
Yes.
So the quid pro quo, just the first thing that comes to your mind, we'll talk about, since we talk so much about pageantry and politics, let's find the pageantry and politics in just everyday things. So like, what is the pageantry and politics of grocery shopping? Does it make sense? Virginia, do you have one?
The pageantry in grocery shopping is when you're walking down the aisle with your basket, I guess.
You are serving it, honey, down the cheese and meat aisle, honey.
You know, you could totally dress up for that with your heels and whatnot. You know, I guess it's a pageantry of grocery. I don't know. I'm kind of lost for words. What's the
I know, it's a very confusing one. Sorry. Michelle, over to you. A pageantry and politics of grocery shopping. Anything?
I was going to say, you know, that moment in which you've got to sniff and feel your produce.
Oh yeah, does it
Right?
pass the sniff test? That's actually a
Yeah.
political thing, actually. Does it pass the sniff test, right? I think
Yeah,
it's
no.
a very. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's it's a big deal, you know, for my wife or my mom, and you gotta touch, you gotta feel, you gotta knock, you know, especially if it's a melon, and
Wow.
right, and if it's a, oh my gosh, I'm doing some weird stuff with my hands right now. You gotta pet the vegetables, and then you smell it, and then you know, and then you're just like, excuse me, to the whoever's working there, like, how long has this been here? Is this the freshest?
Yeah.
You know? And then is there a discount? Not that like you ask for a discount or anything in pageantry, but
Possibly. You get, sometimes you get 2 for 1. That's why we had 2 Miscapas in 2017. We get 2 for 1. I love that. Okay, so let's do another one. Okay, another game. The pageantry and politics. So, it could be anything. When I used to say the pageantry and politics of vacuuming. Virginia, anything?
Oh my God. I can't quite connect the two. What's pageantry and vacuuming? The pageantry and politics in vacuuming. Deciding when your place is dirty or not. Is that pageantry enough?
Okay, making a choice. Making a
Making a
choice whether
choice.
to use your power of the vacuum. I like
Yeah.
it. I love it. I love it. Michelle, do you have anything?
I'm stuck on that one. I pass. Give me another one.
You know, passing is a choice too. Abstaining, that's a choice. The pageantry and politics of commuting to work. How about Michelle? You go first since you wanted that. You passed.
Pageantry in politics in commuting to work. I don't know.
Well, you know, at this moment in time, commuting to work requires a walk to. No, I don't know that one either. No, no.
How about here? I'll help you. The pageantry is, you know, getting to work done. You know, when you're going to work, there is a certain dignity in working, and that, you know, we do that by donning ourselves in our best PJs and getting the job done. And so the pageantry and politics of commuting to work is having everybody of access and availability to just go to their. What if everybody could just log on to Zoom and work? Like, if everybody had that type of job, and even if they didn't be productive, and why can't we have a universal basic income? There you go. Pageantry and politics. I literally just started talking, but anyways.
I think that you're a master of your own game here.
You give me one. Some of y'all give me one. Give me one.
Yeah, I'm a little bit confused with the pageantry in these activities.
Well, because I think pageantry and politics is the same. They're interchangeable.
Oh, okay.
So, like, if you're a
Oh.
pageant, you're into politics, you're in the same game. It's the same thing, basically. We just watched the winner of a pageant give their acceptance speech.
Okay.
See, this is the same thing, you know. So, anyways, you give me one. Anyone? Michelle, do you have one for me?
The pageantry in politics when you're taking number 2.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. I believe in the choice of every American to
Okay.
do however, to pick the 2-ply toilet paper that they want, to have a lot of choice in the matter, and then also choose a bidet if needed. Because sometimes water, like the world, will flow and clean up everything. And so sometimes you just need some more water. Just put some more water on it. Get wet for Juicy. I'm here, Juicy Lou, and I'm here to
I
talk
like
to you
that
about being a
tagline.
number
Get
two.
wet for Juicy.
If I had to answer that one, I would go as far as why not save water? And the whole
Yeah.
going back to the squat and push. It's
Mm.
very much, nutritious for Mother Earth.
Composting, yeah. Natural
And just
composting.
make sure cover up with style.
There you go. Well, that has
I'm
been a quick.
horrible at this.
Well, it's all about improv. It's all about whatever comes to your mind and just keep going. Go for it. And just do the thing. I mean, okay, so that was been our quid pro quo. I mean, Virginia, do you have another one or?
No, yeah. That was it in my mind.
You're good. You're good. Okay. Well, I want to, just wrapping up here. It's been so lovely talking with you, Michelle,
I
and
know.
I love. Let's do one more round of final thoughts because we're here
Yes.
at Queer Thoughts on
Mhm.
Chopstick Alley, and Michelle, we've talked about a lot of things, but Michelle, you go first, and you can, if you want us to follow anything or you have any shows. I say shows coming up. You mean broadcasts? Things that you
Yeah.
want to promote.
Yeah.
Love to hear
Oh,
from you.
wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And this was so much fun. And thank you for producing this program. I think it's so healing and necessary for us. And the more queer API folks out there who are doing these types of things will make a difference. It always makes a
Mhm.
difference.
Mhm.
And don't be afraid to reach out and talk to folks in your community and your family. If you're afraid to talk to a stranger, practice on your friends and your family. And I promise you, the friends and the family are much harder than the folks who you don't know, who are different than you. But that's where change begins, is at the middle ground of when you're willing to listen and the other person is also willing to hear you out.
Mm.
And so if you enjoyed, kind of a little bit of what I talked about, and also maybe might be curious as to what I do at the Commonwealth Club, you're more than welcome. We'd love to have you at the Commonwealth Club with us. Some programs that we have coming up. We're speaking to a young gentleman, 18-year-old election forecaster, new in the game,
Wow.
Niles Edward Francis, who went through a whole lot of tragedy in his life, losing his mom, and COVID, and not being able to graduate high school in this way, and kind of fell into this hobby of election forecasting. And so he's going to be with us at the Commonwealth Club to talk about his gift and kind of what got him into that. And then we also have another program that I'm super proud of, is we're doing a transgender awareness program with several trans leaders. And so join us for that. You can go to commonwealthclub.org/MMS.
Yay!
Yay.
Virginia,
Perfect.
over to you.
Yeah. Maybe my last words is, now is the time to let go of toxic relationships.
Oh. Okay, sis. Yes.
Perfect opportunity. You've suffered far too long enough. It's time to welcome joy and prosperity in your life. And so, with that, I end by inviting you to my TikTok page. I will be launching a new season of my tips, just the tips with Virginia. Please, I will be featuring queer API representation as well as DIY, do-it-yourself filmmaking. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Virginia. And I think, with my final juicy thoughts, I think we are living in a world where everyone can be a producer, everyone can be a filmmaker, everyone can be a broadcaster. I literally just invented myself as a broadcaster this year because I have now this show, and and interviewing folks and all these things. And don't be afraid to reinvent yourself, because this is the time. I think that our community, specifically the queer and trans API community, is sort of just learning to grow its power, learning to build its power. And I think we have a special responsibility here in the Bay Area because we have so much access and we have so much people that look like us around us, and we have so many organizations that have done the hard work of just getting to know people. That's what organizing means. It's just getting to know each other and where we align our interests and how can we work together to build the future that we want. That's what organizing is about. And so it's just moving the needle, right? So and just working together, building those coalitions. I will say that, for me, I'm so excited to be hosting tomorrow night at Oasis. Hopefully it doesn't rain. A drag show, first time live drag show for the past 9 months now, since COVID started. But also, not just because it's a drag show, it's because anytime you bring people together, anytime like in a virtual event or in a live event, you're literally trying to see the humanity in others, and you're trying to see yourself in others. That's when you make a real connection with people. And so I hope that you can make it out. If not, then go to Runway, do all the things on Runway. Again, tinyurl.com/runway2020 is get your tickets for Runway right now. You be a VIP experience. You get a party pack and all this stuff. But also, it's just the joy of just being together on one night. It's a Saturday night, next Saturday at 7 p.m. We got Virginia Please running the ones and twos in the background, making sure all the stuff goes well. It's going to be an amazing show. But at the same time, not for nothing, I really want to appreciate you and acknowledge you, viewers who are still with us, watching us on all the streams, especially Create TV, channel 30 on Comcast channel 30. We're on Twitch. We usually do some question and answers, but we had so much questions and answers with just between the two of us with Michelle. Michelle, we're gonna have you on again. That's my final juicy thoughts. Queer thoughts. I'm still learning the lingo that we're doing this thing. We're doing a show. So I'm Juicy Lou.
I'm Virginia Please.
And that's Michelle Meow. And these have been our queer thoughts.
Bye, everybody. Happy
Happy
weekend, everybody.
Happy everything.
Yes.
Wow. Find joy.